Indeed, it is almost always the same story. And I will always love you. That is what we hear. Just give them some time. A few weeks, a few months, a few years. Sometimes they even go quite the hog. A long number of years before things decide to break down. My dear listeners, good evening once again. And I welcome you to Hope Radio Vision 92.1 FM, from where I'm presenting yet again the program Happy and Successful Marriage, Love is Not Enough. I still remain Reverend Dr. Adebayo Bolajoko. And if you recall, there's opportunity to call in onto the program to make comments, to ask questions, whether on what we are discussing today or what we discussed in the past or what we have not even discussed at all. No problem. Feel free. The program, if you are joining us for the first time, it's about bringing to our memories, discussing together the challenges of marriage. Why is it that some marriages tend to have so many problems, such that the two people involved eventually decide that they cannot cope? We discuss all these things on this program, and we try to share knowledge, share experiences from different people. Last week, we started discussing the topic, why do we tend to have problems? And we cited some examples. We talked about the situation in which a preacher talked about his wife always leaving the television on, whether she's there or not there, or leaving it on and even sleeping off, knowing fully well, yet not paying attention to the fact that the longer the television is on, the higher your fees will be at the end of the month. And how he eventually made a resolution not to try to change his wife's attitude, but rather he would change his own approach to the problem, which was, if she leaves the television on and she's not there, switch it off. If she leaves the television on and she falls asleep, switch it off without complaining. And how that led to resolution of the problem. We considered another situation in which a woman would not even get up in the morning until maybe 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Then there was the problem of, how will the children be prepared to go to school? How will the husband be taken care of? And the man made a resolution if she can't get up, it's not because she wants to be lazy. That is just her own nature. So the man will take care of the children, prepare them for school, take care of his own needs, and that put paid to always having to quarrel, having to fight. We looked at another situation in which a woman will start driving the car here and there until the car stops somewhere. And what was the problem? The fuel had finished. And a friend advised the man, said, look, why don't you just decide that every Sunday you will go and fill the car's tank? Once you fill it up, no problem. Chances are within the week she will not finish the fuel. And the man took to this advice. Thereafter, there was no problem anymore. So you see, different folks have different challenges. We also discussed that in each of the situations that we discussed, somebody decided that the key issue at hand is not about tolerating my spouse's attitude. So it's not about tolerance. Rather, it's about accepting that person for who they are. Because you realize that whatever it is that is their shortcoming, that is who they are. Therefore, it is left for you to see how you can step in to filling the gap in their own character, to filling the gap in their own shortcomings. What are you prepared to do? And in each of the situations, the man, the woman who initially felt aggrieved, once they realized that it was more about accepting the deficiencies for whatever they are, accept them, and then step in to fill in the gap. Immediately they realized that no more problems. So, what is your own challenge? And how do you think you can fill in the gap? Today, let's step forward a bit and let's discuss what is the issue about talking and communicating. When we talk, are we actually communicating every time we talk? People who are knowledgeable about these things have actually told us that no, it is not every time we talk about whatever it is that we decide to talk about that we are actually communicating. For example, Vicky Morandera, in her book, well, it's a Spanish name, let me leave out this name of the book, actually said one of the biggest issues in a marriage is to believe that the act of talking to our partner is communicating. That is one of the biggest problems. Talking is not necessarily communicating. So we need to keep that in mind. People generally fall into common errors by assuming that whatever they have in mind, and they open their mouths to talk about it, they have communicated. Now, when you make a complaint about something, yes, you made a complaint, but you have not necessarily communicated your feelings. You may express some emotion, annoyance. You may convey some emotion, anger, dissatisfaction, but that does not mean you have actually communicated what aroused that emotion in you. So what do we do oftentimes? Emotional blackmail is what we employ. We want to use our anger to force our partner to listen to us. That is not necessarily communicating. It is just simple emotional blackmail. And what is the name for this? Poor communication. Therefore, I can say that poor communication is a major problem in marriages. And this is especially so when people get into their 40s or thereabout. So that is why you should not be surprised that many marriages tend to suddenly develop irreconcilable differences in their late 40s and 50s, simply because they are not communicating properly. Therefore, learning to express ourselves, expressing our feelings, not necessarily making them out to be complaints or criticisms, and also learning to accept the views and trying to understand the needs of our partners can go a long way in helping us to properly communicate. In essence, therefore, I am saying that when people talk to each other, they are not necessarily communicating with each other. Maybe you want to take a look at yourself from now on, and every time you talk to your spouse, ask yourself, am I talking or am I communicating? Communication is not necessarily dependent on so many words or how loud or how angry you can be. It is easy to talk, but it is not easy to communicate, because communication depends more on correct attitude. Unfortunately, spouses do not often remember this. They do not often remember that when they have a poor attitude and they are trying to talk to their partner, they are actually creating problem rather than solving a problem. Communication is always a big, big, big problem. We will discuss this problem of communication further. Let's leave it at this point in time. Let's just leave it here. But we'll come back to it surely. And the reason is that communication cuts across so many things. Oh yes, communication cuts across so many things. So we leave it till when we can discuss it in a larger context. Now, apart from communication, what else can we look at? Let's look at time management. Susan Alexander, who happens to be a marriage educator and also the author of a book called Deciding in Unity, a practical process for married couples to agree on practically everything, reported that a consistent issue in our own experience that arises for her that she had observed as a marriage coach is that her clients often have poor management, poor time management. What did she mean by poor time management? She said couples are feeling so busy. They experience that pressure, and therefore they get stressed up and they feel that they are being pulled apart in different ways. And that has a resultant effect on their marriages. Couples need to increase their effectiveness. How effective are you, man and woman, husband and wife? And how can they increase their effectiveness? They need to create what she called couple consultation, which is a form of collaborative decision making. How do I mean? Husband and wife, they need to develop a skill that can help them to become more effective. So in a sense, you can see that this skill is an attempt to learn to communicate better, because their decision-making processes will come together better by talking, consulting, asking for opinions, discussing. So what this woman does is she helps couples to assess what they are doing, why they are doing whatever it is, and thereby share important views, share important opinions that can help them to see how to protect their marriages by making better choices. The couple will be coached, taught how to examine their feelings and the circumstances around them. Thereby, they can reach better decisions that will affect their lives. If you are a husband or a wife listening to me now, how does this affect you? One gentleman called me a few weeks back after this program, and he said, "Sir, at that time, I actually ran this program around 4 o'clock. And he said, "Sir, I have listened to 2 episodes of this program. Is it possible to move this program from 4 o'clock to later in the evening? Because I am benefiting from the program, but I want my wife to be able to listen into the program." And it made a lot of sense to me. And I said, yes, we can shift the program to a later point in time. We will look for a more suitable time. And here we are. Saturday evening, 6:30 p.m. It is hoped that whoever that gentleman is still listening to this program, and his wife is also opportuned to listen in. And I also hope that more people have the opportunity to listen in. What we are now saying is, time management, it's a very important tool for husbands and wives to discuss, to think about, to plan around time. Very important. When couples don't manage their time well as a couple, not just as individuals now, you may be good at managing your own time as an individual, as a husband or as a wife. But are you managing your time together? The problem of poor time management is likely to occur and persist in many marriages due to the fact that husband and wives are likely to go out in the morning to work because they need to provide for their families. As a result, they are away from each other most of the day and come back home with different work-related stressors, to which will be added the stressors of homemaking, especially for the woman. A careful examination of what I said, or what I just said now, should reveal that the primary cause of poor time management in any marriage is due to the feeling of husband, wife are each being pulled in different directions. The husband is carrying his cross, so to say, and the wife is carrying her own cross. They are facing different directions. Maybe husband is facing the north, the wife is facing the east or the south, they are not both properly aligned. Let me give an illustration here at this point. The illustration of two goats who are in a barn, a very big barn that has different kinds of food. At one end, you have a heap of yam and cassava and grass. At another end of the barn, you have another heap that is similar to the one on the other side. And there are two goats inside the barn. But the two goats are tied together by one rope. Goat A saw the luscious food on one side. He wants to go to that side. Goat B also saw the food on the other side, and it also wants to go to that side. So A was heading to the left, B was heading to the right. Remember, they are tied together by a rope. What will happen? A will be pulling B towards the left. B will be pulling A towards the right. Chances are the two of them will not get near the food because it may be 2 steps forward, 1 step backward for goat A. It may be 1 step forward, 2 steps backward for goat B. So the two of them very, very likely will go hungry. The two of them will go hungry. Yet they will be hungry in the midst of plenty. What is the reason for that? Non-consultation. The two of them are not aligning their needs. Suppose goat A and goat B can just decide, say, come, my friend, look at food on that side. Let's go there. Let's eat. When we finish that food, we can now come back and start on this other side. If only they could reach that agreement, oh, how wonderful it would be for the two of them. But in the process of A pulling B, B pulling A, they will achieve nothing. Yet the two of them will be blaming each other. And the more they blame each other, the more they will fight. That is life. It is easy to assume that they are goats. I know it's easy to assume that. But that is exactly the same problem that human beings have. In essence, what I'm saying is, because the two goats could not align their thoughts, the two goats could not communicate properly, they could not clearly express and understand the need. There was no give and take. They could not properly manage their time. Therefore, they both lost out. Good communication has an indirect relationship to time. The time that you use in attaining an objective. How do I mean? If Mr. A and Mrs. A can properly communicate, the easier and the more easily they can align their thoughts, the shorter will be the time that it will take them to achieve the goal. The lesser time they use in squabbling and fighting, the quicker it will be for them to arrive at the objective. I hope you understand that. Therefore, good communication between husband and wife directly improves their efficiency and effectiveness concerning whatever it is that they put their minds to do. Please think about that. And while you are thinking about that, let's play some music to relax a bit. It will never be enough. No matter the effort you make, that will be too much. The more you do, the more you should realize that you can always do more. Why? Because the more you are doing, in truth, the more you are investing. You can never give too much. That's why when couples don't understand that, they tend to assume that, I have done everything I can. I have done so much for her. I have done so much for him. I have made so many sacrifices. I agree you have done a lot, but the truth is you can always do more. Because that's what it takes to succeed. If you're interested in making a call, you can try any of the following two lines. We are still on the program happy and successful marriage, love is not enough. Studio lines to call are 0805 094 2988, 0805 094 2988, or you can try 0911 064 5200, 0911 064 5200. Either of those two lines, feel free. Now let's go to another point, another challenge. Intimacy. Intimacy in the context of what I want to discuss tonight is something I will ask you to please pay attention to, because that word is oftentimes misunderstood. Many people tend to understand that word intimacy as just having sex, the sexual act. They think that's what intimacy is all about. While that may be true to some extent, tonight I want you to understand that it actually goes beyond just the sexual act. Stephanie Mains, a relationship therapist, says, more than money, kids, or any other marital woe, the most common issue married couples bring to my office is a struggle with sexual intimacy. Whether the problem is lack of interest or opportunity, modern couples, especially those with children, often face an uphill battle to keep their sexual connection alive. And when it falters, spouses do suffer. Now, men is speaking of problem with the sexual act. That's what I first want you to understand. What can be issues in the sexual act? It could be lack of interest on the part of one partner. And that is very, very common, especially with women. That's a fact. It is more commonly so with women. And I'm not in the mood. And I'm not ready. And I'm tired. Some men are already saying, hey, tell them. I agree. Now, what leads to such lack of interest? That is what we need to consider now. Why do women especially tend to not be so interested? It is usually because even before the sexual act, the man and the woman are not intimate. You see, to be intimate is simply to be close together. That's all. That's what intimacy is about. Intimacy is not necessarily about sex. For example, you can have two painters who are working together intimately. They are just painting a house. But in the course of painting, the work is going on so smoothly that, in fact, they are enjoying working together. Honestly, I am telling you tonight, that is intimacy, work intimacy. So when you see that husbands and wives are not close emotionally, they are not close. They don't feel themselves. They are not intimate. And that's why Jonathan Lemberg says, he actually made a write-up to say, and he asked the question, he said, how does sex differ from intimacy? Is there any difference? And I say, yes, I agree with Lemberg. It is difficult to really get to the bottom of the problem of intimacy because no two people have exactly the same ideas. Every couple will have to define for themselves what their own intimacy is. For example, Mr. A and Mrs. A may find that just sitting together, not even talking, will bring about a good level of intimacy between them. Whereas Mr. B and Mrs. B may find that they need to go beyond just sitting. They may need to do some touching, some hugging, some talking before they feel that sense of being close together. So it only means you need to find out for yourself. In fact, I know a couple that when they begin to talk, they lose it. Not that they fight, but when the two of them sit together and they are just quiet, they feel each other. So their own intimacy is centered around being quiet. All they want is to be near each other. That's all. They may sit, they may lie down, but the fact that the husband is near the wife and the wife is near the husband, they feel good. See, that is intimacy. Intimacy is your sense of feeling good, sense of feeling relaxed, sense of feeling at home, so to say, with your spouse. So you have to find out what will create that sense of intimacy between you and your spouse. You have to find out. However, intimacy as an entity had been under serious attack by the society, by the circumstances in the society. How do I mean? Nowadays, we are living in a promiscuous society. And I know you know. How do I mean by promiscuous society? It is common knowledge now. I have a boyfriend. I have a girlfriend. young people, the next thing is they are having sex. It is not that they actually love each other. They don't even know what love is all about. And that is why it is so easy for them to confuse sex with love. They think the more sex they have with each other, the more they love each other. They are just confused. Why do men visit brothels and have relationship with prostitutes? Is it love? No, definitely not. It is simple desire for sex. And that is exactly what many young people, unmarried couples, are doing now. What they are doing is hardly different from a man visiting a brothel, using prostitutes to satisfy their sexual needs. Intimacy is not necessarily sex. Intimacy is about knowing someone, knowing them for who they are, and being there in their presence, feeling free, relaxed, comfortable in somebody else's space. And that person too is feeling the same. I am in someone's space and they are happy that I am there. They feel good, relaxed. They welcome me in their heart. That is intimacy. Therefore, you should from today understand that intimacy is an emotional state that is often reserved for that special person. So between husbands and wives who are really intimate, it is that sense of intimacy that makes your husband special to you, the wife, and that makes your wife special to you, the husband. That's why you may have so many women out there at work, wherever, but they don't make you feel the same sense of intimacy. And it is that sense of intimacy that you learn to develop and nurture that actually enhances your enjoyment of the sexual act and the sense of love that you can feel for your spouse. I mean that in every sense of the word. You may have a high sense of intimacy with your wife, with your husband, without even having sex. The two of you can feel so intimate because intimacy that I'm describing to you for you tonight is a feeling in itself. It is an emotional state in your mind, in your heart. Because, of course, your heart is the seat of feelings. Your mind is the seat of your intellect. Yes. Your mind and heart work together to create that wonderful sense of intimacy. That is true. Ideally, sex in a loving relationship should be the physical embodiment of intimacy. It should come from a place of love and connection. That is the ideal position in which sex should take place. Sex should only occur in a relationship in which the two partners are inextricably linked together, because intimacy builds. It builds sex, and sex builds intimacy in your mind, in your heart. So if you are not yet married, please pay attention to what I'm describing. If you are married, pay attention. So that is why, as a counselor, I always tell young women, don't make yourself to be so cheap by offering your body to just any man that comes along. Most men don't love you. They only take what you are offering them as a gift. They will never learn to respect you. I tell young women, some of them eventually understood, some of them never understood. Fine. When a man learns to develop that sense of intimacy with you, that man will respect you as a woman. And that's why the man can say, I love you just the way you are. The man is not interested in whether you are tall or you are short, you are fat or you are thin. He's not interested. He loves you for who you are, because he has learned to develop that sense of intimacy with you. Well, time is far gone, and I thank God for how far He has brought us. This is how far we can go on the program, A Happy and Successful Marriage. Love is not enough. For today, this is how far we can go. As it pleases the Lord, next Saturday is another date. Do keep it in mind. Invite someone to listen with you. Maybe your wife, maybe your husband, maybe your friend. Till then, I remain Adebayo Bolajoko, saying, have a wonderful weekend. God bless you. Bye.